Have you ever wondered what would happen if church was just exactly like you? What would take place in a church that everyone acted just like you? Would Christ be preached or persecuted? Would he be lived or lied about? What would happen in your life if you were actually the church? Jesus is telling his disciples how to live until he gets back. In the process of that situation, he is also demonstrating to them what is going to happen in their life when they stand for him. You see, there is a cost to the cross. If you, according to Matthew 16, follow Jesus Christ, you must pick up your cross and follow him. Now, your cross could be different things to different people. It just kind of depends on what that's going to be. But when Jesus talks in John 16, and he says, don't let these things discourage you when they begin to happen to you, because what happens to a lot of folks is that, and I've seen this time and time again, folks get on fire for the Lord. They love the Lord. They're ready to go. They're on fire. They're witnessing. They're praising God. They're testifying. And they run into people that have gotten over it. Vance Havner used to say the worst thing that a new Christian could do is run into an old one, because they lost their fire. They've lost their vitality. They've lost their zeal. They've lost their joy. What a sad place to be in life if that were the case. But now listen to what Jesus says. We've gone through chapter 14. He said, I'm going to go prepare a place for you. But until I do that, I'm going to tell you how to live until I get back for you. So we've gone through 15, but look in chapter 16 of John, verse 1. This is what it says. These things have I spoken unto you, that you should not be offended. Jesus warns his disciples and says to them, if you do the right thing, people are not going to like it. People are going to be against it because it's going against the flow. The famous baseball player turned preacher Billy Sunday said on one occasion, as he was preaching very hard, and he was known for preaching very hard, Billy Sunday, when they came to him on one occasion and said, you're rubbing the fur the wrong way on the cat. You're rubbing the fur the wrong way. And Billy Sunday's answer was, tell the cat to turn around, because I'm not changing. And I wonder how many of us change just to be sociable. We change just to be acceptable. We change just to be available. And in the process of holiday season coming up and that sort of thing, a lot of people find themselves in challenging spots, whether they're going to go along to get along or stand on the truth of God. Well, Jesus says, I don't want you to be offended when these things come. Now listen to verse 2. It's very important. Verse 2 says it this way. They shall put you out of the synagogue. Yes, the time will come that whosoever killeth you will think that he does God service. In other words, they will be people that will destroy people in the name of God, not even knowing who God is. Now, we're not talking, I don't think today, in today's time period, I don't think we're talking about actual people getting killed, although they do in foreign countries. People, they get killed all the time. Christians do. They get beheaded. We know all that. But I think more in our contemporary times, I think more now in America, what happens to us is that we get ostracized. Our feelings get hurt. We don't have people standing with us. We have people that are against the truth. And when we stand for it, the further that we standing on the gospel, the further they get away from us, because they find a reason or a claim. And it hurts your feeling. It really does. I mean, it hurts you when you look at someone and you say, hey, listen, the bottom line is 2 and 2 is 4. That's just what it is. I mean, you're not going to change 2 plus 2. It is 4. It's very important to understand that simple principle, basic theme. Now listen to this. Very importantly, don't miss this. Verse 3 says, and these things will they do unto you, because they have not known the Father or me. Now, I think this is critical for our day and time. Let's examine something, okay? Let's just, for instance, I started out by asking, what if your church was like you? Every member in that church was like you. What kind of church would you have? Now let's jump to another subject matter. Let's ask this question. What if your church had the cure for cancer? You actually had, for any cancer, no matter what that cancer was, you had the cure for it. There's no way you could control the people. There would be a line from here around the world, because cancer is something that affects everybody. Well, guess what? Sin affects everybody too, and we have the answer to it. Yet, cancer is something that we have been convinced needs attention. But sin needs attention too. And if we had the antidote to any cancer, could you imagine, just imagine with me for a second, if we had the antidote to any cancer, how many people would be standing, waiting, beating, never sleeping, traveling thousands of miles to come because they need the answer to something to keep them from dying? Well, we have the answer to sin that gives us eternal life. Jesus said, don't be surprised when these things happen, because that's the number one thing that happens to people is discouragement. When things happen that doesn't go the way of the person's desire or whatever they're hoping for, they get discouraged. And when they get discouraged, often they quit. And when you quit, there's another church gone. Because if everybody in your church act like you, and you got discouraged and quit, guess what would happen to your church? It would quit. It would cease to exist. It would not be effective. It would lose its purpose. Have you done that? Have you done that in your own personal life? It's easy to do, I'll tell you that. And if you don't take care of it yourself, you may just slide into that position. Because the world is a cruel place. And people, the worse we get into things, the more challenging things that we face, the worse it's going to be. We have to stand for the cause of Christ. God has already made an antidote for sin. Cancer is a disease, like every other disease. And something's going to get you. But sin affects every person, healthy and unhealthy, old, young, middle-aged. It affects everybody. And we have an answer for that. So let me encourage you today to be about the Father's business, because if Jesus says, don't be offended, then offense must be coming if I stand on the principle. And if you do that, God will bless you for it, because your church, full of people like you, need to stand. And if you do that, God will bless you for it. God bless you. We love you, and goodbye.